Looking at the mirror, Taehyung straightened his tie as he got ready for his office. Through the mirror, he saw his mother sitting on his bed. She was quite displeased. What happened, Mom? You are asking as if you don't know. He turned around with a frown evident on his face. What's your plan for future? For yourself, Taehyung, and that wagon? For a moment, Taehyung was taken aback hearing her question. Future? Yes, Taehyung, future. For how many more days or months do you plan to keep that wagon here, your ex-wife? How many days do you plan to continue living under the same roof as hers? People are talking, Taehyung. They are making up stories. Mom, we shouldn't give heed to their talks. It's not about them or us, Taehyung. It's about Taehyung. It's about his future. I believe I don't need to teach you how other kids, people will treat him, knowing he would come from a broken family. After all, you weren't born yesterday. His social life is already difficult. Why are you hell-bent on making his life more difficult by adding this divorced parents living under the same roof thing? He will get for his in future, Taehyung. Taehyung looked away from her, not finding right justified answers. He then murmured slowly, Take a decision, Taehyung, take it quickly. I have asked you before for a second marriage, considering Taehyung, but then you refused, stating once you have made mistake by loving and trusting a woman, you can do that again. I couldn't push you more during these past years, but now that you know the truth, then why can't you think about marriage again? Taehyung deserves a complete family. You deserve a complete family, Tae. Mom, it'll be complicated if I look for second marriage. Taehyung, I understand all the complications, not only Taehyung's, but yours too. What do you think? I didn't notice this many years how you were dwelling in betrayal of that one woman, how you yearned a complete family with that one woman only. Taehyung looked away from her. I really don't like Vian, still not, even after knowing it was her mother who caused you and Taehyung all the sufferings. Vian too. But you can try again to reconcile your broken relationship, to stay together again, to marry again. If not for you both, then for Taehyung. He deserves to have a complete family with his mom and dad. Mom, think about it. I know it will not be easy. There's too much distance, bitterness, but do try. Try to talk to her about it. If not being the old lover, then do try being the parent, the responsible parent. She looked at Taehyung, his expression unreadable. He nodded his head. I will talk to Vian, but not now. She's not well. I feel her mental health. I have noticed something actually. Vian, she doesn't stay alone with Taehyung, even if he asks for her to read bedtime stories. Vian waits till you come. It's not just night, but during daytime too. She expects me there when Taehyung play with her. Taehyung's mouth agape. He didn't notice this as he was too busy with office works. Due to Vian not going to office, all the responsibility of her shares was now on his shoulders. I will talk to her then. With her doctor also. Her doctor actually hinted me something like this would happen because of her PTSD regarding her mother's actions. And mom, you please do encourage her to stay with Taehyung alone or handle him alone. Please remind her she's capable of taking care of Taehyung. She's her son after all, a son for whom she was even become mentally unstable for a long period of time. Don't you feel she will become more No, mom, if Taehyung is cause of her distress, then Taehyung is also the only cure of it. The room was filled with the soft clatter of toys as Jason played his laughter, a melody that Vian had never known she would yearn to hear. She sat on the edge of the playmat, her movements tentative, her eyes flickering between the child and the door where Mrs. Kim stood, watching her like a hawk. Come, Mama, play, Jason urged, holding out a toy car to Vian. Vian's hands hovered over the toy, her heart aching with a mixture of joy and uncertainty. Are you sure, Jason? Maybe Grandma wants to play with you. She said, her voice laced with hesitation. Mrs. Kim's eyes narrowed slightly, but she stepped forward, her voice surprisingly gentle. No, Vian, you go ahead. He's been asking for you. Vian glanced up, searching Mrs. Kim's face for any sign of the disdain she had grown used to. Finding none, she allowed herself a small smile and took the toy car. Alright, let's see how fast this car can go, she said, engaging in play with Jason. As they played, Vian could feel Mrs. Kim's eyes on her, scrutinizing her every interaction with the boy. It was a silent reminder of the years of the pain and misunderstanding that lay between them. Vian knew that Mrs. Kim had been Taehyung's rock, caring for Jason when the world they had built together crumbled. Jason exclaimed, pushing the car along an imaginary track. You are going to be a great racer one day. Vian laughed, the sound foreign to her own ears. She encouraged her spirits, lifting with each giggle from her son. Mrs. Kim cleared her throat and Vian's gaze snapped up. He's a good boy. Mrs. Kim said, her voice softer than Vian had ever heard. He's been through a lot. We all have. Mrs. Kim shied, taking a seat across from them. I know you didn't, and I may have been harsh too. You were a victim in all this, as my son was. The admission hung in the air, heavy with the weight of the unspoken forgiveness. Vian made Mrs. Kim's gaze a silent understanding passing between them. As the afternoon sun streamed through the window, casting a warm glow over the trio, Vian felt a cautious hope. Perhaps in time they could heal the wounds of the past, not just for themselves, but for the innocent boy who brought them together. Taehyung entered Vian's room and saw her standing beside the window. The moonlight was coming through the open window. He saw her standing there while staring blankly ahead of her. She looked lost. He coughed a little, making her aware of his presence. Startled, she then looked behind her and found him standing. Hey! An avocate silence filled the room between them, these two past lovers. She looked at anything but him, and he walked inside a little. You had your dinner, I guess. Yeah, actually I had it with Jason. Good. You had. Thought to talk to you before having it actually. Her mouth formed a O hearing him. So it's been over a month since you came here from hospital. Have you decided when will you join back office? Vian looked at him, her mouth feeling dry. I was thinking to work from home for a while actually. Taehyung nodded, hearing her. Then there was a silence between them until he spoke again, this time his voice calm yet authoritative. You do realize, right, that we can't keep staying like this? I mean, you here, I understand. Staying with your ex under the same roof is not easy. I have planned to look for apartment. That's not what I am talking about. I am talking about us being divorced. Don't you think we should try to reconcile our relationship, not just for us but Jason? He deserves a complete family, Vian. She was taken aback by his sudden words. She wasn't able to find words to utter. Mom, she told me actually this, how people will talk behind Theson's back, how people will say ill to him. But honestly, I too thought about this topic. She was right, Ryan. We should think about this matter. I am not saying we should or need to remarry. No, I am just saying we should consider this. One try, one last try. If it didn't work out, then we can co parent Thyssen. Or you can just marry another woman, a woman who wouldn't see Thyssen as a burden but her own. There's so many good. You think I should marry again for Thyssen? Yes, Taehyung, he needs a complete family, a mother's love, and I can be that for him, not in the way he needs. Taehyung's face contorted with a mix of anger and pain, his voice rising despite his attempt to keep calm. If I wanted Thyssen to call another woman mom, I would have done it years ago. I have never even considered it. Every time he asks about his mom, I show him your pictures, why in your teenage pictures. You are his mom, no one else. Vayan's eyes widened, her heart pounding at the intensity in his voice. She had not expected this, the raw emotion, the fierce loyalty. Taeyang, I. No, Vayan, I don't want Thasin to grow up with a stepmother. I want him to grow up with his real mother, with you. We can work this out for him, for us. Even when the time I hated you, never once it crossed my mind that Thasin shouldn't know that he is your son. Even when I was made to believe you didn't want a Thasin. I only imagined you as his mother, not some other woman. Deep down, it was always you, Vayan. Didn't you tell me you suffered severe mental illness after knowing that Thasin was stillborn? Then why are you backing off now that you found your son, the same son for whom you had shed your painful tears? Why are you afraid to spend time with him alone? The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Vagan looked at Taeyang, seeing the man she had fallen in love with, the father of a child, standing before her, his conviction clear as day. Taeyang, I am scared. I have seen that obsession can do. How it can twist love into something unrecognizable. My mother, she loved me too fiercely, and it suffocated me. I don't want that for Thyssen. I don't want my love to become his cage. Thiang listened, his expression softening as he took a step closer, bridging the gap not just only in space but in the gap between their hearts too. I understand your fear, Vayan, but you are not your mother. We can learn from the past, not be condemned to repeat it. Our love for Thyssen can be his freedom, not his chains. We can be different together. She looked up at him, hope flickering in her eyes like the first light of dawn. Maybe, just maybe, they could mend what was broken for Thyssen, for themselves. Can we really do that? Can we start anew, not just for Thyssen but for us? Yes, we can. For our son, for us. For the love that we once believed was unbreakable. Let's not let the fear dictate our future. We can try slowly, very slowly. Take one step ahead from each other's side and meet at the middle. Who knows? We can become the normal, typical, happy family. And in that moment, under the gentle glow of the moonlight, they saw not the end but the possibility of a new beginning. The park was a tapestry of greens and golds, the laughter of children waving through the trees like a carefree breeze. Vine sat on a bench, her eyes following Thyssen as he toddled across the grass, chasing after a butterfly with the boundless energy of youth. Mrs. Kim sat beside her, her hands folded in her lap, her gaze equally fixed on the boy who was her world. The air between the two women was thick with the history of their shared pain, yet there was a new thread of understanding waving its way through. He's so full of life, Vine remarked, a smile tugging at her lips despite the tightness in her chest. He gets that from you. Mrs. Kim responded, and Ryan turned to her in surprise. It was the first compliment she had received from the older woman. It warmed her more than the afternoon sun. Theseus's laughter reached them, and they watched as he spun in the circles, his arms outstretched. I'm flying, Grandma. Look, Mama, I'm flying. Ryan's heart soared with him, and for a moment she allowed herself to forget the years of heartache. She called out, her voice carrying across the distance. You are the best flyer, Thesin. Mrs. Kim's eyes softened and she leaned in, her voice a whisper. He's been asking about you, you know. Every night before bed, he asks if Mama can come to read him a story. Ryan's eyes widened and her previous hesitance melting away under the sincerity in Mrs. Kim's voice. She said the words were feeling like a wow. I would love that. But can you please stay with me? I mean, besides Jason, you were his mother, Ryan. It's true I was angry at you for whatever your mother did to Jason to Taehyung. She caused us misery. But never once I have doubted your presence with Jason. Don't put yourself and your mother at the same place. Your mother's love for you had crossed the motherly affection and become a fatal obsession. I am sure you won't turn out like that. So don't restrain yourself around Jason. Ryan's eyes went glossy hearing her words. She really needed to hear this from someone other than Taehyung. As the day waned, the three of them made their way back home. Jason's hand in Ryan's, his stories of the day spilling out in a joyful stream. Mrs. Kim walked beside them, her presence a silent support. A gentle hum of the evening market filled the air as Ryan and Taehyung walked side by side, each holding one of Jason's hands as they navigated through the people. The colorful stalls, the aroma of street food, and the chatter of the vendors created a tapestry of sensory experience. Jason's eyes went wide with wonder, his head turning this way and that, trying to take in everything at once. Daddy, look, balloons! He exclaimed, pointing towards the vendor with a cluster of brightly colored balloons bobbing in the air. The young chuckled, the sound mingling with the market stain. He asked, already knowing the answer, You want one? Yes, please. Tezin bounced on his toes, his excitement palpable. As Taehyung led Tezin towards the balloon vendor, Ryan hung back, her heart heavy with a mix of emotions. She watched as Tezin lifted by Taehyung, allowing him to choose his balloon. The simple act, a father and a son sharing a moment of joy, was a scene she had imagined countless times during the years of separation. Which one do you like, Tezin? Taehyung asked, his voice gentle. The blue one, like the sky? Tezin pointed eagerly, his face all right with happiness. Taehyung nodded to the vendor, and soon Tezin was holding onto the string of a large blue balloon, his smile as wide as the horizon. Ryan approached them slowly, her hesitation a stark contrast to their ease. She said, then forcing a smile, It's beautiful, Tezin. Tezin turned to her, his expression suddenly serious. He said, then holding out the balloon towards her, Mama, you have one too. Her heart clenched at the gesture, the simplicity of his offering bridging the gap that had yawned wide between them. She said, her voice barely above a whisper as she accepted the balloon. Thank you, Tezin. The young's gaze met hers over their son's head, a silent message of support in his eyes. He seemed to say, We are in this together, Ryan. As they continued through the market, Thyssen between them, their balloons bobbling above, Vian felt a tentative sense of belonging. With each step, she grew more comfortable, the market's vibrant life a backdrop to their small family's reconnection.